Next, we will study the Pretas suffering from specific obscurations. Pretas suffering from specific obscurations. These Pretas endure a wide range of sufferings, varying significantly in nature and intensity. For instance, some are tormented by creatures that inhabit their bodies, gnawing at their flesh. One day, Srona traveled to the realm of the Pretas and came upon a magnificent palace where he encountered a stunningly beautiful woman adorned with precious jewels. She sat upon an exquisite throne, to which a preta was tied at each of its 4 legs. The woman offered Srona some food, cautioning him not to share even the smallest piece with the pretas, no matter how much they begged. After delivering this warning, she left the room. As Srona began to eat, the pretas started pleading with him, saying, "We have gone so long without food. Please, have mercy and give us just a little." Moved by their pleas, Srona gave food to one of them, but it turned into chaff. The food he gave to the second turned into a lump of iron. The third preta, unable to consume what was given, began devouring his own flesh, and the food given to the fourth turned into pus and blood. What a terrible scene it was! One can hardly imagine it without witnessing it firsthand. Some individuals hold deep-rooted wrong views and do not believe in the law of karma from a young age, leading them to develop misguided thoughts or doubts after hearing this story. However, it is clearly stated in the sutras that due to the consequences of their actions, the food of pretas will indeed transform into various things. At that moment, the preta who had swallowed the burning lump of iron was engulfed in flames, emitting a foul odor. The woman detected it. When the woman returned, she cried out, "Didn't I tell you not to give them anything? Do you think you're more compassionate toward them than I am?" Srona then asked, "What is your connection to these 4 beings?" She replied, "This was my husband, that one was my son, the other was my daughter-in-law, and the fourth was my servant." "What past actions brought you to this situation?" Srona inquired further. "The people of Jambudvipa are too skeptical," the woman replied. "You wouldn't believe me." "How can I not believe you when I'm witnessing this with my own eyes?" Srona assured her. The woman then recounted her story. "I was once a Brahmin woman in a village. One evening, I prepared a delicious meal to mark an auspicious day. By chance, the great and noble Katyayana came by on his alms round. Feeling inspired, I offered him food. Afterward, I thought my husband might want to share in the merit, so I said to him, 'Rejoice with me. I have given alms to the great and noble Katyayana, the Buddha's heir.' But my husband was furious. He shouted, 'You have not even offered food to the Brahmins or paid your respects to family and friends, and yet you give the best portion to this shaven-headed monk. Why doesn't he just eat chaff instead?' There are many similar occurrences happening nowadays. Someone made offerings to a great master in a monastery, but his family members opposed him, leading to quarrels, the smashing of Buddha statues, slander against the Sangha, and more. It is truly disheartening. The law of karma never fails. Such actions, if not repented, will inevitably lead to rebirth in the lower realms. Yet some people remain indifferent, which is genuinely saddening. I made the same suggestion to my son, and he angrily shouted back, 'Why doesn't your bald-headed monk eat lumps of iron?' That evening, my parents sent over some delicious food, but my daughter-in-law ate it all, leaving me with only the scraps. When I confronted her, asking, 'Did you eat the good food and leave me with the worst?' she lied, saying, 'I would rather eat my own flesh than touch food meant for you.' Similarly, when my servant ate the meal she was supposed to deliver to my family, she claimed she would rather drink blood and pus than steal food from me. The reason the whole family was against her was likely because she made an offering to Katyaya. They did not understand her actions and refused to rejoice with her. Moreover, they treated her very poorly. I became a powerful preta because I wished to be reborn in a place where I could witness the consequences of their actions. Without that wish, I would have been reborn among the gods in the heaven of the 33 as a result of offering alms to a sublime being. The consequence of making an evil wish is dire. If one cannot transform this negative thought on the path to enlightenment, it is highly likely to lead to making evil wishes. If you ever visit our village, please tell my daughter, who has become a prostitute, that you met her parents. Let her know that we asked you to warn her that the path she is on will lead to negative consequences and is not the right way to live. Urge her to abandon these harmful choices. If she doubts your words, inform her that in her father's old house there are 4 iron pots filled with gold, along with a golden stick and a monk's ablution jar. Encourage her to use these items to make offerings to the sublime Kalyana from time to time, dedicating the merit in our names. Doing so will help alleviate our karma until it is completely exhausted. As reflected in this story, when offering recitations and dedicating merit to a deceased person, it is best to mention their name. The tradition in some Han areas of China aligns with that in Tibetan regions. Specifically, every time people conduct a puja or offer sacrifices to protect a departed spirit, they write the names of the deceased on paper. This practice is very important. Some people only write down the name of the deceased once, right after they pass away, and never do it again. This is not acceptable. Even if the person has been dead for many years, you should still write down their names and invite the Sangha to perform recitations for them whenever you think of this person. Ideally, it is best to mention their name whenever there is a puja of transference performed for the deceased. I do not know whether there is a similar tradition in the Han area, but in the Tibetan region, during the ritual of reciting prayers, one person is specifically assigned to spend a long time reading the names of the deceased. Some people only offer 5 Chinese yuan, but write down the names of 50 individuals, which the person in charge has to recite for an extended period. This is not appropriate. It is always beneficial to write down the names for the recitations. By doing so, even if the deceased has been reborn as a hell being, a preta, or an animal, they can be liberated from the lower realms, provided someone in the human realm reads their name and dedicates the merit to them. This has been verified through examples in the sutras, in stories of eminent masters visiting the lower realms, and through the visions of great accomplished masters in their pristine awareness. Therefore, it is very important in our daily lives to perform prayers, rituals, and dedications for the deceased. The stories mentioned above are from the first volume of the Karma Vastu section of the monastic code of the Mula Sarvastivada, which was translated by Master Yijing of the Tang dynasty. The text is rendered in ancient Chinese, which can be challenging to understand, but the plot remains largely the same. Almost all the examples I quoted from the sutras while teaching the aspiration prayer of Sukhavati and the words of my perfect teacher can be found in the Chinese Tripitaka. Therefore, when listening to the teachings, you should not think, this is just the viewpoint of Tibetan Buddhism. It has nothing to do with me because I am not pursuing Vajrayana. Please refrain from such thinking. The aforementioned stories, which illustrate the law of karma, are not merely catering to the perspective of a specific lineage. After studying these stories, it is important to begin understanding the karmic consequences of negative actions and to pay attention to your behavior. Once one grasps the law of karma, individuals who previously opposed their family members' gestures of offering to eminent masters or monastic institutions, and perhaps even reprimanded them severely, will develop correct views and no longer dismiss the law of cause and effect. We should gain something from each Dharma class we attend. For example, after learning from today's stories, we should reflect on ourselves in this way. Have I ever committed such a misdeed before? If so, what should I do to purify my faults? How should I respond if I encounter a similar situation in the future? After such self-reflection, we should always be cautious and mindful about our words, thoughts, and actions. Here is another Buddhist story. Once, Master Jatari journeyed to the realm of the Pretas, where he encountered a female preta with a grotesque appearance, who was the mother of 500 children. She was weeping and said, "My husband left for Bodh Gaya 12 years ago to search for food, but he has not returned. If you go there, please tell him that if he doesn't come back soon, all our children will starve to death." Master Jatari asked, "What does your husband look like? All pretas appear the same. How will I recognize him?" "You won't miss him," she replied. "He has a huge mouth, a flat nose, and all 9 features of ugliness." When Master Jatari arrived in Bodh Gaya, he saw a novice monk offering food and water tormas outside. After the novice left, a swarm of pretas rushed to grab the offerings. Among them, Master Jatari spotted the one he was looking for and delivered his wife's message. The preta responded, "I have been wandering for 12 years but have not found anything to eat, except once when a pure monk accidentally dropped some mucus. Even then, I barely got any because so many of us were fighting over it, and I was severely injured by the others." In another account, it says the preta had a bit of snot and held it so tightly in his hand that he did not even notice when his thumb pierced through his palm. Later, the snot dried up. When the preta discovered the snot was missing, he thought it had leaked from his palm, so he desperately searched for it, wanting to bring it back to his children. As you can see, the attachment that a parent has to their child is very strong, and this also applies to pretas. However, what the child gives back to the parents is often very limited. Regarding the lifespan of pretas, some sutras say it can reach up to 70,000 years, while others state it can last 84,000 years. It is truly sad that they cannot obtain any food for such a long time. Therefore, while we are still in the human realm, we must meditate on the suffering of pretas, sometimes contemplating the cause of their rebirth, and other times reflecting on their specific torments. We should then ask ourselves, how many misdeeds have I committed that could lead to my rebirth as a preta? Will I really fall into the realm of pretas? Such constant reflection and visualization are, in fact, a very profound practice. Some Dharma students believe that practicing ngondro only involves performing prostrations. While they are willing to engage in this physical practice, they find it very challenging to contemplate in their minds. Other Dharma students are particularly interested in visualizing the bindu, or the mantra syllables illuminating, but they struggle to meditate on the profound teachings that hold great significance in this life and the next. Since I began teaching the words of my perfect teacher, I have been guiding you to meditate on the Longchen Nyingtik Ngöndro. The corresponding meditation instructions are so simple that anyone can engage with them. I recently met a Dharma student and asked him whether he had meditated on the Longchen Nyingtik Ngöndro. He replied, "I don't practice according to your instructions." I asked, "How do you meditate?" He responded, "I follow the practical instructions of the middle way and also integrate my personal insights into my meditation." It seems he has climbed quite high in his practice. Meditating according to the state of the middle way certainly goes beyond the state of ngondro. However, for me, although my level of realization is modest, my teachings have certain dependent arising. If you completely abandon the instructions in the ngondro teachings and create a new practice based on your fabricated thoughts, claiming, My meditation is based on a view of the middle way that transcends any fabrication and concepts, and I also integrate it with my own view in my practice. I fear such a meditation may not be effective. This is because it relies solely on your own fabricated thoughts and worldly opinions, rather than the guidance of the great masters. Based on their own experience and realization, great masters such as Longchen Nyingtik, Patrul Rinpoche, and Mipum Rinpoche have clearly outlined the correct methods and sequences of practice, beginning with establishing a solid foundation through ngondro practice. If you adhere to their guidance and reflect upon it repeatedly, it will undoubtedly have a positive effect on your mind. However, if you disregard their instructions and insist on creating your own practices, you may not attain the same state as the great masters. Since I began teaching the words of my perfect teacher, I have sometimes felt happy because many people have put the teachings into practice. However, I also feel upset sometimes because some individuals do not value the teachings, and even with my constant reminders, they appear indifferent and continue practicing in their own ways. Some have even advised me not to teach too much, suggesting that less is sufficient as long as they are introduced to a few concepts to practice. This perspective is not very reasonable. Even in a worldly context, when recruiting public servants, the Chinese government requires candidates to have at least a bachelor's degree. Otherwise, they can hardly be considered qualified. Even for a simple matter like this in the mundane world, a strong foundation is essential. So, when it comes to the profound, supreme, and transcendental state in Dharma practice, how can we expect to achieve any substantial progress if we engage in meditation blindly without first carefully studying the Dharma? I truly doubt it. Recently, I heard someone say, so-and-so center focuses on studying the texts. Our center focuses on meditation, which is at a very high level. He was advertising his affiliated center to others even while on a bus. Of course, he is free to express himself as he wishes, and if his center is truly at a very high level, we will rejoice with him and show great respect to anyone there who has attained a high level of realization. However, any supreme state in Dharma practice requires a solid foundation. If you do not get this right and instead focus only on a portion of the practical instructions, obsessing over it day after day, you may eventually lose your sanity. This is why some people's practice often goes wrong. It is a perilous approach if one has not yet established a firm foundation through preliminary practices, including the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages, the defects of samsara, and more. Instead, if one clings to a particular advanced approach and practices it daily with the aim of quickly attaining enlightenment, this mindset becomes highly dangerous and requires serious attention. Let's return to Patrul Rinpoche's text. When we meditate on the suffering of the Pretas, we first need to understand the causes of falling into the realm of Pretas. 10 causes are listed in the Buddha Speaks of the Differences in Karmic Retribution for Elder Sukha Sutra. These 10 are: first, committing minor misdeeds of the body; second, committing minor misdeeds of speech; third, committing minor misdeeds of the mind; fourth, feeling excessive greed among all mental afflictions or being attached to many things; fifth, craving something unwholesome; sixth, feeling jealousy; seventh, holding wrong views; eighth, clinging to something at the moment of death; ninth, dying of hunger; 10th, dying of thirst. These 10 karmic causes lead to rebirth as pretas. Knowing these causes, we should examine ourselves according to the teachings and assess whether we have committed such misdeeds. If so, we must repent and purify these negative actions through methods such as reciting mantras. Meanwhile, we should also recognize the plight of the pretas and do our utmost to offer them food and drink. Regarding the sadhanas of offering to pretas, practitioners of Chinese Buddhism primarily utilize the food offering sadhana found in the Dharani Sutra for bringing salvation to the hungry ghost with the flaming face. Here is the story according to the sutra. Ananda, one of the Buddha's principal disciples, was meditating in a quiet place when a preta named Flaming Face appeared before him, saying, "You will only live for another 3 days and will be reborn as a preta after death." Upon hearing this, Ananda was horrified and asked, "Is there any way to prevent this from happening?" The preta replied, "If you make offerings to as many pretas as the grains of sand in the Ganges River, and to hundreds of thousands of Brahmins and sages, giving each of them 1 container of food and drink in the Magadha measure, and if you also make offerings to the 3 jewels on my behalf, you can prolong your lifespan." Ananda thought, "This is such a large-scale offering. As an ordinary monk, I am unable to make it." Terrified, he rushed to the Buddha and made a full-body prostration at the Buddha's feet. Ananda said in great fear, "World-honored one, please save me. A preta told me I would die in 3 days and be reborn as a preta. I asked him how to avert my fate, and he told me to make a vast offering. World-honored one, what should I do?" The Buddha told Ananda, "Do not be afraid. I have a special means that will allow you to offer food and drink to all those pretas, Brahmins, and sages. Once, when I was a Brahmin in my previous life, I received a mantra from Avalokiteshvara and the Tathagata named Carefree Virtue, which can make offerings to thousands upon thousands of pretas. Now you may protect yourself with this mantra, so you won't fall into the realm of pretas." Then the Buddha introduced the mantra, Nama Sarva Tathagata Avalokite Om Sambhara Sambhara Hum. This mantra is also included in the sadhana of fire puja in the Larung daily chant book. If you recite this mantra while making food offerings, you will not fall into the realm of pretas. How should we make food offerings? First, we should place some food in a clean container and bless it by chanting this mantra 7 times. After sprinkling a bit of water on the food, we either place it outdoors or burn it in a fire. Any being touched by the smoke will receive the benefits. By regularly chanting this mantra and making food offerings, countless pretas will be nourished, and we can also make offerings to billions of Tathagatas. Additionally, when performing the fire puja for pretas, Tibetans typically chant the names of 4 Tathagatas, Rinchen Mang La Chaksa Lozup Zat Dumpa La Chaksa Loku, Jam Li La Chaksa Lojikpa, Temche Yongsu Drawi La Chaksa Lo. In English, this translates as Tathagata who possesses all jewels, Tathagata who has precious form, Tathagata whose body is omnipresent, and Tathagata who is free from fear. By reciting the names of the 4 Tathagatas, countless pretas can be liberated from their sufferings. Especially when a person has just passed away, food offerings made according to the sadhana of fire puja can greatly assist the bardo body of the deceased. Such food offerings also provide significant benefits to ghosts, earth gods, non-humans, and others. When the Sangha of Chinese Buddhism makes food offerings, they typically recite numerous mantras. These include the universally invoking mantra, the mantra of relieving hatred, the mantra of widening throat, the mantra of transforming food, the mantra of ambrosia water, the mantra of offering to the Buddha, and the mantra of bestowing food without obscurations. The corresponding sadhanas and mantras are imbued with blessing power, so Dharma practitioners at Larungar should also know how to recite them. Some Sutrayana practitioners claim they do not practice Vajrayana. However, their daily chanting in the morning and at night includes many Vajrayana mantras. In addition to the mantras just mentioned, They also need to recite the Shurangama mantra, the Amitabha Pure Land Rebirth mantra, the Great Compassion mantra, the 10 short mantras, and more. They may have recited more mantras than we Tantric practitioners do. These mantras are rooted in Buddhist scriptures and have been carefully examined by great masters throughout history. Chanting these mantras is essential to our practice. When Buddhism was first introduced in China, there was no consensus on what Buddhists should recite, from the Jin dynasty to the Tang and Song dynasties. Although Buddhists engaged in routine morning and evening chanting, what was chanted varied among different schools. During the Ming dynasty, Master Lianqi and Master Oyi Jitsu standardized the content of the morning and evening prayers for the benefit of their disciples' practice. It was not until the beginning of the Qing dynasty that the recitation was finalized by Master Yulin Tongshu. Following this, members of the Sangha in Chinese Buddhism began to adopt the same recitations. Today, temples in the Han areas of China conduct nearly identical morning and evening prayers, which include recitations of the Amitabha Sutra, the 88 Buddha's Great Repentance, and the Mengshan food bestowal ritual, among others. The Mengshan food bestowal ritual was specifically composed by Master Ganlu at Mengshan in Ya'an, Sichuan province, to make food offerings to Pretas. Consequently, the sadhana was named after the location of Mengshan. In the practice of the Mengshan food bestowal, there are two forms, a big offering and a small offering. The former refers to Fang Yan Ko, also known as the Flaming Mouth Ceremony, a formal food offering puja, while the latter refers to the food offerings made each night during the evening chanting. The origin of food offerings in Chinese Buddhism can be traced back to the time of Emperor Wu of Liang. Following the advice of Chan Master Bao Zhi, the emperor extensively studied Buddhist scriptures, compiled sadhanas, and organized major dharma assemblies known as the Liberation Rite of Water and Land to liberate beings of the 6 realms. Later, the Mengshan food bestowal ritual was compiled and introduced. Many routine recitations in Chinese Buddhism are quite similar to those in Tibetan Buddhism, particularly the parts involving prayers to Dharma protectors and offerings to Pretas in the evening, as well as chanting mantras and reciting the names of the 4 Tathagatas. Therefore, whether you are a Sutrayana practitioner or a Vajrayana practitioner, it is essential to engage in routine recitations. Some Vajrayana practitioners believe that the daily prayers in Chinese Buddhism hold little value for them, leading them to fall asleep during daily chanting with the Sangha in a Chinese Buddhist temple. This is inappropriate. In fact, not only does Chinese Buddhism place great importance on daily recitation, but Tibetan Buddhism also requires newly ordained monastics to memorize all the prayers in the recitation to be qualified to join in the Sangha. Hence, routine recitations in both Sutrayana and Vajrayana are vital. We should not look down upon the recitations in Sutrayana simply because we are Tantric practitioners. The mantras and names of the Buddha used in the morning and evening prayers in Chinese Buddhism derive from the Tripitaka, as stipulated by great masters, like Master Yulin Tongshu during their compilations. Thus, the compilation of the chanting prayers was not based on the teachings of specific lineages or masters, but includes the sacred words of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which we should all venerate. I visited several Chinese Buddhist temples where the Sangha began their routine chanting at 4 a.m., and the melodies were standardized across all these temples. Since I did not know how to chant, during one visit to a temple in the Han area, I chose to stay in the doorway and silently observe the Sangha. While listening to their beautiful chanting, I felt inspired. I hope that practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism, whether monastics or lay practitioners, We'll also learn the morning and evening prayers of Chinese Buddhism, which encompass the Vajra words of the Sublime Ones. Each of you should chant these prayers well. Meanwhile, Sutrayana practitioners should not slander Vajrayana, as what you recite in the morning and evening includes Tantric mantras. It does not make sense to denounce Vajrayana while reciting Vajrayana mantras. Let's return to Patrul Rinpoche's text. To summarize, regardless of the type of preta, the being suffers from hunger and thirst. Please keep in mind the various torments that pretas endure wherever they are reborn, particularly their intense suffering from hunger and thirst. Reflect on how uncomfortable you feel after just one morning without food or drink. Now imagine being reborn in a realm where you do not even hear about water for years. Understand that the primary causes of rebirth as a preta are stinginess and obstructing the generosity of others. We too have committed such actions countless times, so it is essential to take every possible step to avoid being reborn as a preta. In this world, some people are born to be generous, while others are born to be stingy. For the latter, even giving a little is as painful as cutting their own flesh. There is a story in the garland of examples adorned by poetic fancy. Once a king saw a pagoda during his hunting trip and casually offered 5 coins. Someone nearby witnessed the king's act and remarked, "Nice," as a compliment on the king's generosity. However, the king felt displeased upon hearing it and ordered his attendants to take the person back to the palace. The king said, "You said nice when I donated 5 coins. Are you mocking me for offering too little, or for some other reason?" The person crawled on the ground, begging, "I only dare to speak if your majesty grants me pardon." The king replied, "Very well, I will grant you pardon." The person thanked the king for his kindness and said, "I used to be a bandit in the mountains. One day, I captured a man who was clenching his fist and would not loosen his grip. I thought he must have something very valuable in his hand, so I threatened him with harsh words, but he still would not let go. Then I threatened him with my bow and arrow, yet he continued to hold on tightly. I knocked an arrow and pretended to shoot him in anger, but he still refused to open his hand. In the end, driven by greed, I shot him dead. When I finally managed to pry open his fist, all I found was a small copper coin. Comparing you to someone who would rather die than give up a coin, I genuinely rejoiced that your majesty willingly offered 5 coins to the pagoda without being coerced by anyone. I did not mean to laugh at you, not even the slightest bit. Therefore, no matter who the donor is, as long as they are willing to make offerings to the 3 jewels, it is worthy of applause and rejoicing, even if the offering is small. Nobody should ridicule them by saying, "Oh, they are a wealthy entrepreneur. Why do they only donate so little?" We should refrain from such comments, because any offering made without a stingy mindset is commendable. If a person lacks the intention and is unwilling to sacrifice personal benefit to make offerings, this reluctance can easily lead to rebirth as a preta. Therefore, we practitioners must eliminate stinginess. In fact, it is easy to commit misdeeds that result in rebirth as pretas. It is stated in the Buddha Speaks of Protecting Purity Sutra, touching the Sangha's clean vessels with unclean hands, touching the monk's clean food with unclean hands, mixing unclean food in the monk's clean food, and offering unclean food to the Sangha, will cause rebirth as a preta for the following 500 lives. Here is a story from the Century of Noble Deeds. Once Maudgalyana encountered a preta with a repulsive body and asked what the preta had done in a previous life. The preta replied, "I am too hungry and thirsty to talk. It would be better if you asked the Buddha instead." Maudgalyana then approached the Buddha and posed the question. The Buddha explained, During the time of Buddha Kashyapa, a monk who had been walking a long distance became extremely thirsty. When he asked a woman who was fetching water for some, she refused to give him any. As a result of her actions, the woman was reborn as a preta after her death. This story illustrates how easily we can commit wrongdoings that lead to rebirth in the realm of pretas. Therefore, when we encounter a beggar or someone in need, we should help them without any hint of stinginess. Even if the assistance is simply offering some leftover food, we should still do it. Otherwise, the consequences of our stinginess can be unpredictable. Meditate in this way from the depths of your heart using the 3 supreme methods. First, generate bodhicitta. Then, focus on the main part. You may meditate on the suffering of pretas and the causes of rebirth in their realm. Alternatively, you may reflect on what you would experience if you were to become a preta, or give rise to great compassion for those mother-like beings who are currently suffering in the realm of pretas during your meditation session. Finally, dedicate all the merit of this practice to all beings. Practicing with these 3 supreme methods generates immense merit,